This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Dustin Peterson from Wormwood SEO. Thank you so much for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and, how you kind of got to this point in your career and everything in between?
Sure. So, it's kind of an interesting trajectory. I used to play in bands and I got into web design and digital marketing to kind of promote my bands.
Oh,
And that eventually turned into a career in graphic design and web design. And over the years grew into, I worked for a company that did digital advertising and marketing. So my career kind of took a bunch of twists and turns from there, and I worked for a lot of startups. One of which was an influencer marketing, like one of the first influencer marketing companies in Hollywood called Digital Media Management. We worked with a lot of kind of like A-list celebrities, Felicity Huffman, Vanessa Hudgens, Kate Walsh, and stuff like that. And we would build properties around them. But it really started as kind of like selling their social feeds and that kind of stuff. Like Nicole Richie was one. And through that, I was a salesperson. I would go out and sell ad deals, and I would get these budgets from agencies for our celebrities, and they wouldn't quite perform the way that we wanted them to. So I started really digging into the marketing side of things, and that's how I kind of got into SEO and, Facebook advertising and paid search and all that kind of stuff. And so I worked for a bunch of different companies over the years. My most recent jobs were at places like one was a commercial real estate company. I did marketing for them, and Verizon Media, which is no longer even a company now. And fast forward to Wormwood. Wormwood is a company I know the owner through a friend, and they're just an SEO company that has a really long track record of success and does really good quality work for the clients that they serve. So that's how I ended up at Wormwood. Kind of a
that's
long
awesome.
story, but
No, not at all. Trust me, some people spend 10 minutes on this on the introduction, and that's okay too. I really enjoy hearing how people got to where they are now, and that's actually a very unique upbringing. I mean, the celebrity thing is really cool. Do you have a favorite person that you've interacted with?
so it's crazy. I didn't really. We were a lot of us were. Now I think that the company has evolved because this was like 2011 to 2013, so it was a while ago. But I had a couple of interesting interactions. One was with a woman who passed away. Her name is Naya Rivera. It was on
Oh my God, Naira. Yes, yes.
Glee. Yeah, she came into my office with Big Sean, the rapper, and she spit her gum in my garbage can. And I was like, "Whoa, the girl from Glee spit her gum in my garbage can."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
it's
privilege.
yeah, he had like she had like a terrible accident later on. Like she passed away. I don't remember. I don't know all the details of it, but
Yeah, that happened a few years ago, I think.
yeah, yeah. And then I also interacted with Felicity Huffman one time when she came in. We built a kind of like a site for moms around her because her brand was kind of Desperate Housewives at that time. And so she was one of the few like A-list celebrities I got to actually meet in person and interact with. And she was very cool, very funny.
That's really cool. Well, it's good to also have good interactions. I know, you always hear like diva kind of things about celebrities, so it's sweet to be able to have nice interactions with them. And also you're doing good things for them. So that's also, you'd hope that there's nice interactions that come from those.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, I'm sure. So, um, your title is SEO engineer. What would you kind of say that is? Because I don't usually hear like engineer in the title paired with SEO. So I was wondering kind of
Mhm.
what that entails and why you use the engineer title.
Yeah, so the engineer title is I don't know that it's unique to Wormwood, it might be, but the reason for that title is we kind of interact with the clients, during the sales process, and we engineer the SEO strategy. We really work from the get-go with, once the salesperson brings someone in and is like, "Hey, this is a prospect that has XYZ problems," us as the engineers will look at that client and look at their website and their digital footprint and kind of go, "Okay, we're going to construct." So we are engineering essentially
Mhm.
a SEO strategy for these clients.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think that is definitely yeah, I think maybe other agencies might just use different words for it. So I
Sure.
was just curious if it was a different kind of job occupation than I've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of clever language, I guess,
Mhm.
in some ways, but also,
Yeah.
it's a process that we follow through to the end. Once we come on with this client, we're dedicated to that client, know the client, we interact with them on the day to day, we send reporting and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, no, it's definitely describing exactly what it is. I think engineer um naturally you think of uh constructing or something like
mhm.
that. And constructing can also be um a plan in it, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think, especially in modern day SEO is a lot of moving parts, right? So there's a lot of different parts to an SEO strategy that's successful. There's the on-page stuff, there's the off-page stuff, there's load time on the site. There's all kinds of, copywriting and keyword optimization and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of felt that it was just a more accurate. It gives us a little bit more credit as to the effort that we're putting into what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I actually really like it. It sounds very astute as a title, you know.
Mhm.
I always think that there's better ways to describe certain titles for things, and I think that's very specific as like I don't know, some people are very familiar with a specific type of title, but you can kind of snazzy it up a little bit, so to speak,
Mhm.
to make it sound more um interesting. And like you are doing exactly what that's describing, so it's not like it's fluffing it or anything like that. It's just a better word for and almost gives more credit where credit's due for
I was just gonna say I was just gonna say, we felt like it was more of an accurate description of who we were than like an account rep or an account manager.
Mhm.
And is Woody really the owner of Wormwood who came up with it too?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate him. He's doing good.
The
And
the
that's
work.
yeah, no, that's a good I do think that a title should encompass all the work that someone does, and I think that very straightforward familiar titles don't always do that because there are especially wearers of many hats. It's like, marketing coordinator and then you're doing 15 things and people are like, "Oh, like they don't your title doesn't encompass. I guess coordination kind of does encompass that you're doing all these things, but at the same time it feels like it doesn't give it enough credit for the amount of things that you're juggling.
Yeah, sometimes coordinator is a director, really,
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, we should be moving those around a little bit more. I agree.
yeah, and it's kind of like some technology moves so fast. Mm, you know, maybe a couple of years ago, SEO account manager was an accurate description, right? Things evolve.
Yeah, exactly. And engineer is a great word for it, I think. So going back to, you know, okay, so what is, do you think, the most difficult field or kind of subject to do SEO for? That's always like a curiosity question that I have for, because it doesn't, I guess you don't have to generalize it as much as a field because sometimes that might
Sure.
vary, but maybe like a specific company or something. You don't have to obviously say that, as I'm sure there's confidentiality things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But yeah, I would just be interested to know because I'm always curious about, what may be a more difficult time or, um, something that is not easy to optimize.
Yeah, I mean, s- from a technical standpoint, everything's pretty similar, but I think where you start to find real challenge is when the landscape is really competitive. And so you can look at, and most people who work in search marketing or search, and you can tell you this, you can look at Google click data or, like kind of the average bid rates for keywords or industries and see really where the competition is, because the most competitive industries will have really high click rates. So to give you an example, the legal field, especially for attorneys and people that are class action lawsuits, corporate law, that kind of stuff can be very competitive. And especially when you're working against other people that have massive budgets, um, that can be one of the most so like I would say like law, like anything legal related. Trying to think of what other really high priced clicks are. But that's the one that immediately comes to mind,
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that because I've talked to SEO specialists in the legal field specifically that's their niche, and that is definitely something that I I would maybe, and I could be wrong because again I'm not personally in the SEO field. I would think that maybe niches are some that are the most difficult to work with because that if there is important enough for an agency just to round around a niche, then that means that it's necessary. Yeah, it's something that is difficult to navigate if you have to focus on it.
Sure, medical would probably be another good example, like health related fields, especially with the way that technology has kind of brought a lot of people or a lot of health business online. A lot of doctors interact now with patients through Zoom like this. And so I think there's a lot of competition in that field because it's such a massive industry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just looking for a doctor recently in my area, and the amount that showed up, I was like, oh my god, filter. Like I wish there, I you don't wish there's one because it's so hard to get into a doctor now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, oh my god, there's too many options. I'm just gonna make an appointment with everyone, see which one gives me the soonest.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do anymore.
Play the number.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like this. I'll just do this. But yeah, I can definitely understand that. Is there something that is there a specific field that you think is maybe easier or more self-explanatory, like laid out for you, where you think I understand that the foundation is very similar, but maybe something, or maybe it's just something that you really like?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things we serve a lot of local businesses. We serve plenty of national brands as well, but we serve a lot of. I think the largest portion of our business is probably more localized businesses, and I enjoy that because we can really come in and provide some value there. Because a lot of times, with these local businesses, a couple one man operation, two-man operation, maybe it's like a landscaping business or someone who does handyman work or construction contractor or something like that. And in those cases, a lot of times it's just like they just need someone with some digital knowledge to come in and set them up properly and make sure everything's aligned.
Mm.
And with those types of clients, I can look at their site and go, oh, there's 3 things I can do right now that will make them pop in search tomorrow, you know? And I really like those because I like being able to go into a client and show value as quickly as possible. And with SEO, it can be difficult, because it's a long play. In a lot of cases, you're really having to work your way into these organic search rankings. But in these cases, with some of these local people who really just threw a website up and started a business, we can really come in and provide a lot of value. So I like those.
And that's really nice too. It's almost more rewarding because you can show an immediate cause and effect too. Whereas, yeah, I can completely understand the long game is like you can prove it with so many stats, but people will still believe that maybe it's like this other thing or this happenstance that led to this result. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's nice to be able to be like, oh, you just tweak these some things or add these certain things and your business will already be search for more, come up more, or you'll just immediately see more business from just doing these couple things, and that's it's really nice. It's also nice to see, your what you've been able to do as soon as you've been able to do it.
The fruits of your labor.
It's of your labor. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
we're very data driven too. So we start with a baseline ranking report and we target specific keywords so we can show clients, hey, a month later, here's where we were on this baseline. Here's where we are now. We're already seeing lift.
Yeah, I think data is obviously really important to clients because they would like to see the cause and effect. I think also a lot of people are very I think a lot of people want to see quick results. And so when they don't see what they're, looking for, even if it might be impossible, they're or maybe they do see what they're looking for. They might not necessarily believe the data or believe that even though they're hiring you for the purpose of doing so, they might not think that you're the cause of it. Like they did something differently or all that stuff. So I think it's just interesting to be able to provide data, but also that a client may not believe that that's exactly all of your doing. That's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I mean, there are of course other factors that come into play sometimes, but there's also a lot of SEO firms out there that are kind of black box and just frankly rip people off. So that's another avenue that a lot of people are skeptical. I've worked with a couple of business, spent thousands and thousands of dollars on SEO and saw nothing in return. So that's
Mhm.
one of the things that we're very conscious of, and we try to make sure that we're laying down a baseline piece of data and saying, hey, look, here's the data right now. The investment you're making is going to improve these numbers, and then we can show that and really quantify it with real data.
What do you do in this scenario where the results are not exactly what you thought they would be?
A good question. Um, I think we reassess it a lot of times. If that's the case, it's because there's other cooks in the kitchen pulling levers that, I mean, I had an experience recently where I was working with a client and I had rewritten SEO copy on their site, keyword optimized the title tag and done all this stuff. And then someone from their web team came in and started changing things. Um, so I mean, to answer the question directly, usually what I do is look for why the results didn't happen the way that we had anticipated, and then being able to explain that to the client. Well, hey, look, we made these changes on this date. Then someone came in and altered that.
Yeah, it's interesting testament to the amount of factors that can affect what you're doing because like you can have a plan set up, but there's so many other things that can get involved that can affect that result. And that's not necessarily your fault for the result not happening originally expected it to.
Yeah, yeah, and in those cases, we're accountable too. If we made a mistake or we did something, we were misinformed with our original data, we'll correct course and change. But that rarely happens. I mean, we do a very deep dive into our clients, and we try not to take on clients that we don't think we can actually show some real value and do some good work for too.
Is there ever a case where a client comes to you, asking for something and you kind of think that it's too easy? Like it's something that I don't know. I'm trying to explain this. I'm trying to articulate this better. Okay, say a client comes to you with kind of a quick fix operation. Say, you can look quickly and see kind of similar to maybe the small business scenario that you were giving, but
Mhm.
in a way that's so cut and dry, like you're just doing something wrong kind of thing. Is there this scenario where you kind of just tell them, that I just, you know what I'm saying?
There's if there's cases where it's like something simple, I'm like, oh, you just, you have your WordPress set to not let the crawler go through it. You know what I mean? Or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people click the button that's like, don't let Google crawl my site or something. Of course, we would just tell the prospect, hey, you're just not ranking because you told Google not to rank you. But honestly, like I was saying earlier, kind of going back to my original thing about how we like to take on business that we know we can help. A lot of times I'll see stuff on these sites that I'm like, would be easy for me to do, but this guy is running a business. He doesn't have time to sit down and work with his website, or like figure all this out. So those are the clients that honestly are the best for me, because there are people that I know that our service is going to be valuable to them, and it's something that they can, you know, delegate to us and focus on what they do best.
Yeah. So something that is new-ish, that I'm wondering how you may incorporate it into your work. Do you use AI on like what kind of things do you use it for?
So I use it primarily in my job to help write content. And one of the things about it is I think some people like rely too heavily on it, where we'll do like an initial draft with AI because it basically, we can feed it like some data points and say, but then we have to go through it with a human touch and reword it and make sure there's no gaps in the logic and that it's keyword optimized, because the AI won't keyword optimize for you. So that's where our skill comes in. But yeah, we use it a lot to generate content that we then go through it with a fine tooth comb and edit and optimize.
Yeah, that's really nice because I'm always curious because I know that it contributes it can contribute very heavily to SEO work, but also I definitely am under the impression that I don't know, there are some people that are worried that it might like replace certain jobs or whatever, but I don't think so currently because there's exactly what you said, like, there's so many things and parts of it that it doesn't do, and
Mhm.
it's it needs a human touch to be able to weed out these certain things because it's like, you give AI to a writer, for, like, copywriting, and if this person isn't a good writer, this isn't going to be good work, going to be
Yeah.
okay work. You give the tool to a really good writer and it's going to be even better probably because
Yeah.
they can spend less time on like the things that aren't as fruitful or take too much time or all these things. And I think that's really that's just like a question out of curiosity because I know that's definitely probably involved. Um but it's definitely I always want to hear about how heavily or, like what you think it's helpful in and what it's not.
Yeah, I think it also presents an opportunity, because I think the people that are going to rely too heavily on it, if you are a writer who writes good content, that's going to be elevated because AI can see other AI. That Google's AI algorithms will know if you have strictly AI generated content, and they're going to downrank you for that. So um, I think it's also an opportunity for people who do good quality hands-on work, because it's going to kind of when too many big companies are relying on that technology, it's going to become very obvious to Google's algorithms. And I think it's an opportunity for people to really take time and produce good content for readers or video viewers or whatever.
That's a really important point. I think what I'm waiting for is for them to crack down more on AI generated reviews. That's such a big thing that worries me constantly. Because I do, when I'm going to buy a product, that's something that's always at the top of my head. Like, is this even real? Like, is this review site real? Are these reviews on the actual site real or all these things? And I'm hoping that they do better at kind of regulating that.
Yeah, I mean, I can say from personal experience, it's pretty tough to get a review posted, unless it's real obvious that it's from a like person's account, especially in Google. But I know that like Yelp is pretty similar, like a lot of
Yeah.
places. it's tough. I know that there's ways around it, but to your point, I think that like they'll clean that stuff out if they see it too. It's become a lot more like the Web3 landscape is becoming a lot more I guess less anonymous.
That's nice though. I think that oh, it's good to know because I don't um but I think yeah, I'm outside of Google. I think I have more of a worry, but I think that that's really nice that they have those fail safes in place.
Yeah.
Because I
I don't know if they're completely fail safe, but for the
but
most.
yeah, it's nice to know though because it's a big worry of mine. I don't really like trust, you want to be able to trust things on the internet, but you can't to a certain extent. You have to use your better judgment. But it's also if
Totally.
I'm looking to do something and I can't find out unless I do that thing or I buy that thing, and I don't return anything, which is why I heavily get involved in reviews because I don't ever want to have to return anything. So I want to make sure that I'm making a good investment in
Yeah.
purchases.
Too much demands.
Yes, reviews, reading through reviews that I always just look through the worst ones. I'm like, okay, if these aren't that bad or they seem dramatic, then they're probably not real or they could be real, but they're just dramatic. And
Or it's like the competitors send a bunch of people over to leave bad
yeah,
comments.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this person screamed at my mom or like something like that. Like I love reading reviews like that. So
Yeah. I want to know, like, what did your mom do?
yeah. I want to know the whole story now. You make a documentary or something on it. So it's time for the game.
Let's go.
Yes. Okay. Okay. If you had to choose, I'll ask you a less absurd question first. Okay, if you had to choose to work for Google or Microsoft, what would you choose?
Google.
Why?
Hesitation. Because Google is probably like Microsoft. Don't get me wrong, Microsoft's done a lot, but I think Google has changed the world in ways that Microsoft could only dream of in the last 20 years. You know what I mean? Like Google is a
Yes.
part of like the lexicon beyond and then they have YouTube and all these other kind of other things underneath them. And I think that's just from a personal standpoint, that's more interesting to me than the stuff that Microsoft's been involved in the last 20 years.
No, I completely understand that. Google is it's the pioneer of so many things that no one could ever even imagine when they were creating these things. And that
Apple would honestly be my ultimate, right? Yeah. Steve Jobs. Yeah, the Steve Jobs biography was, if you have read or like listened to that, it's so good because it kind of, wow, it's just crazy how much the iPod and the iPhone, and again, like Google, like completely changed the world, you know?
yeah, no, it is something that is whew, unimaginable for its time. And I think that that's I I I don't even know. I can't imagine. I think I was too young. I'm aging myself. To imagine the complexities of all these things coming out when they did or like understand them. But I think it's to look back and see and think about the incredible feat that these things have accomplished in a
Yeah.
time where no one believed something like that was possible. Or I just think those are some of coolest accomplishments because it's like this person created something that no one could think of. Like they created something that no one thought was possible, and I love those kinds of inventions or innovations.
Just to throw in a little nerd fact about Apple too. A lot of people don't know this, but a couple years ago, so they patented the touchscreen technology when they made the iPhone and all that stuff. It's patented. And they had an ongoing lawsuit with all the other smartphone manufacturers. Hey, you're using our patent. You need to pay us royalties. And eventually a judge ruled that they were right. Apple has these patents, but he couldn't force an injunction because it would shut down the entire smartphone market. So Apple actually won the lawsuit, but the judge was like, I can't enforce this because it will
Was impossible.
destroy the economy. So that's how much
How
influence Apple has had in the last 100 years.
really? Yeah, it reminds me of the thing with Disney, how they're constantly trying to move the I always forget the term for it, but the okay, the concept. I'm just describe the concept because I can't remember the exact term for it. But like how Mickey Mouse, public domain. They're trying to
Yeah.
remove public domain consistently so that people cannot use Mickey Mouse. I think they lost in trying to do that because Mickey Mouse is on a bunch of things that is not no longer covered under the now is in the public domain. But I always thought that was super interesting. Is it's a very that's different because they're just trying to make more money.
Yeah. Or took advantage of that.
Mhm. Yes, I love things like that though. It's just very interesting to see big companies kind of, you know, deal with those kind of situations. Okay, so now I have an absurd question for you. How many eggs do you think you can eat in a day?
Oh, wow. I mean, I already eat about 3. So I would say maybe 6.
Oh, okay, that's not that
Well,
bad.
I could that's one.
I've read like 50. I've gotten absurd answers to that.
I mean, if we're having a contest or
It's just really
something, I could probably go I don't know if I could do 50. That's a lot. Maybe
50 is
20.
insane. I've gotten 80.
Wow.
It's a lot. I don't believe them. I
In
think
a
that they die.
It's like, so is a day like 8 hours or 24 hours too? It's like,
It's
there's a lot.
a waking day,
Okay.
I suppose.
Yeah, I would probably say 20 or 30 max.
20 or 30 is much more normal than I got 8 dozen one time. Crazy. I think they just fall over and die. I think it'd be like too much cholesterol for the body. But I
Well,
guess they could eat them. They just would die.
but also there's new science because this is another thing about like, the internet and everything. There's new science around eggs. I was just reading this thing from a doctor talking about how all the stuff about cholesterol that they previously thought is completely wrong. And so it might be possible to eat that many and be fine.
I would love to look that up. I'm going to after this.
Yeah, definitely. There's a really vibrant conversation. There's a lot of doctors and stuff that on YouTube, and it's like it's so great. Like you can find like doctors that are like urologists or like, specialists like for dermatology or whatever. Like if you have any problem, I feel like it's amazing.
Yeah, I love the amount of knowledge now that's free because I think that, oh my God, it's just so disheartening to know how inaccessible things were so like long ago and how people didn't know what was wrong with them and couldn't find out easily.
Yeah,
Or people didn't even know that there was anything wrong with them because they
totally.
didn't know that other people were living differently. And I just really love the idea of, the internet is so beautiful for that exact reason. I think there's so many negative things that come from having the internet and cell phones and all that thing. But it's really, really, that's something that gives me like hope every day is the access to knowledge that everyone has because of that. And it's for the most part, defies economic bounds, which is
Yeah,
such an amazing
I agree.
But okay, I will ask you one more thing before we go because we're a little over time. But I think I need to ask you one more.
No
thing.
worries. I don't have anything immediate, so.
Beautiful, I appreciate that. Well, thank you for sticking with me. Okay, would you rather be stuck on a deserted island with someone you hate or alone forever? You're there forever with either of these options.
Probably someone I hate because I could learn to like them, and it would suck to be by myself all the time. I mean, if we're on the island, we could go to the other side of the island when we need to be alone, So I would probably say the person I hate because, I don't really hate anyone. And I feel like whenever I've had a conflict, it's usually just a misunderstanding. And once we communicate, understand each other better, and there's no hate.
I really like that. I think that that's the consensus that I get usually is that, or you can always if you're stuck on a desert island, no one's ever gonna get you. Then you have if you really hate each other and you end up killing each other, it's you're not on the desert island anymore.
That's a dark way to look at it, I guess.
And I'm looking at it in all avenues. I have I have to think thoroughly through all my
I'm
questions.
sure you've got a lot of different answers too.
A lot of them are very wholesome, actually. Yeah, I think the hate thing is very yeah, I think a lot of people would rather be stuck with someone they don't like than someone that than them just by themselves. By yourself, you can go crazy. It sounds horrible. At least you have some kind of human interaction.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I'm big on learning to understand people. I try not to, I don't hate anyone.
Appreciate that. And that's a wholesome note to end on. Everyone, Dustin doesn't hate anyone. Thank you. Be like Dustin. But anyway, yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it. And I've learned a lot about SEO, which I don't get to talk about as much. So it's really nice. And thank you everyone for watching or listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories like this and learn more like I get to do.
I mean, really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.